Hi, everyone. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Laura Pumillo, who is a registered dietitian nutritionist and health education specialist in the New York City area. Thank you, Laura, for speaking with me today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So I guess just to start off, you could give us some background on what you do.
Okay, I'm a registered dietitian, as you mentioned, and presently I work in private practice in Manhattan. And I work primarily with eating disorders, but I have worked as a clinical dietitian. I have worked in ICU units, long-term care, oncology, everything you could think of. But right now, my specialty is eating disorders, and that is independent of what someone weighs. They could be
Hmm.
very heavy, they could be
Hmm.
significantly underweight,
Hmm.
and often people with disordered eating have issues with gastrointestinal complications, osteoporosis, some fertility issues. So I work in that entire arena. And then, of course, people who also just struggle with weight loss and dieting, yo-yo dieters, etc.
Hmm. So all kinds of, yeah, it's amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing currently going on in the nutrition space? Like, what are some of the biggest trends that you're seeing?
Oh, there are a lot of trends. Some of them are
Mhm.
old that are really sticking around. I mean, certainly the ketogenic diet is still very, very hot and popular.
Mhm.
It's, in my opinion, a very difficult diet to comply with long term because of its
Mhm.
emphasis on significantly high amounts of fat and indirectly, therefore,
Mhm.
protein.
Mhm.
There's a movement towards more full fat foods now, also specifically in
Mhm.
the realm of dairy products, which
Mhm.
is new that people are getting away from the reduced fat free milks like skim and using high fat milks that also help you absorb vitamin D, in addition, of course,
Mhm.
to all of the plant based milks, of which there are so many: cashew,
Yeah.
soy, almond. And
Yeah.
so that I think is here to stay, and that's part of a movement towards a much more plant-based diet. A lot,
Mhm.
just the vegetarian diets, I think, are here to stay, and people are really trying to make more plant-based
Make
meals.
more of that. Yeah. Yeah. I've
And
definitely gone a little bit more plant-based myself, just with my own thing, but also just in general, you read about how, just plant-based diets can really help you in your whole like medical, but even just in general, like make you feel more energized and everything. But every now and then I still have craving for meat and I go that route. But I everything in moderation, right?
exactly, yes, I
Yeah.
support maintaining an omnivorous diet, but it can be 90% vegetarian. But I don't feel
Right.
the point is to exclude any specific kind of meat,
Right.
unless you don't like it, of course.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What are some of the biggest mistakes you've seen in the nutrition space?
Well, I think the mistake is really an ongoing problem. The mistake, if you want to use that language, is that we are still looking for a quick fix. Where people
Hmm.
are still under the illusion, particularly I'm talking about with body weight, that there is some magical answer to,
Hmm.
to weight loss, to health, to wellness. And there is nothing fast, there is no magic bullet. It is
Hmm.
quality, nutrient
Hmm.
dense foods, keeping the pleasure factor in there, so what the
Yes.
person, that individual really likes, and getting away from the idea that we would need to figure out how to feed ourselves with the use of a calculator. Like, the idea,
Yeah.
it's one thing as a dietitian who's treating something like kidney disease
Hmm.
to need something very, very specific and planned out per grams of carbs, protein, and fat. But generally speaking, that's not how people are ever going to learn to really feed
Right.
themselves and nourish
Hmm.
themselves, by thinking that they need to do calculations in order to figure out
Yeah.
what's healthy.
Yeah. 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 That's very knowledgeable. Yeah. So true. And we all do it at some point, in some capacity. Um, so okay, now on to black gram. Tell us what you know about it.
Well, black gram is an absolutely amazing legume. Has been around in India for, I believe, thousands of years. It's very new to me. And
Yeah.
I think it's an amazing nutrient. It has so many phytochemicals. It's high in protein, it's high in fiber, and a lot of similar products contain those nutrients, but not in the same amount and not in the same calorie level. Meaning if you
Mhm.
look at, if you compared black gram, for instance, to a traditional pasta, you would get less of these important nutrients. Like fiber specifically is 9 grams in a serving of black
Mhm.
gram, but pasta, but it's less than half of that in double the portion for traditional wheat.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's abundant in phytochemicals, antioxidants, which help, of course, prevent tumors. They're anti-inflammatory, so they're disease preventers. Plus, B vitamins, iron in a non-heme form, meaning iron in a plant-based form, is also
Mhm.
a little more challenging to get. Great for
Yeah.
vegans, and there's a good, there's a great source there. Plus, of course, as I said, very high amounts
Mhm.
of protein, and it tastes
Mhm.
yummy.
Yeah. It does. It does. From what you're seeing right now, are there any negatives to black gram?
There really aren't. The only thing that in some people may be an issue is because it's so high in fiber. Some people who have irritable bowel syndrome they have to sometimes be careful with exactly how much fiber they have. Too much can cause symptoms, just as too little can. So I
Mhm.
think I mean, that would be personal tolerance, and fiber is something that you can build up to. But that is something I think people would need to think about. Other than that, I can't think of a situation where you would be worried about having too much. I mean, it has almost no sodium, so there's no issue for those people.
Mhm.
Sodium restricted diet. It's very low fat. Uh, and again, I can think of examples of medical issues, not
Yeah,
for the common
not.
population. Again, something like potassium is an issue for people who have kidney disease, and it is very rich in potassium, which is great for most people. But people who have specific kinds of kidney disease wouldn't want to have too much potassium.
Right. That
I
makes sense
can't think
then.
of any reason why it would be a problem for the majority of healthy people.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. I guess then my final question for you is, do you think black gram could be the next superfood?
Absolutely. It is, there's no question in my mind. It is a perfect whole food. And that is very much the name of the game in nutrition these days. People want whole foods. They want something that you know what it is when you see it. An orange is an orange. And this black gram, especially the black gram pasta, is a single ingredient food. I mean, even in competing items like the Banza pasta, the Banza chickpea pasta,
Mhm.
they it it's not a whole food, meaning there's 4 other
Mhm.
ingredients. There's
Mhm.
tapioca, there's a certain kind of pea protein and starch, so there are other fillers in there
Mhm.
that you're not getting with the black gram.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I see that all the time actually, like with, they'll advertise it as, only this one ingredient on the front. And then you look on the back and you're like, wait, no, there's like all these different things. It's diluted and they're like derivatives of the corn and things in there. And you're just like, what am I consuming right now? And then, and so the mission is always, how do you always only keep this ingredient in its whole self? And then maybe you throw some spices in it and maybe you add some salt, but you're not really taking away from the goodness of the food itself in its natural form.
Exactly. You can choose to make all kinds of recipes with it, but product
But you
itself
want,
is a perfect
yeah,
whole food.
yeah, great. Well, thank you, Laura, so much. I really appreciate speaking to you today.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. Bye.
Bye bye.